The NBA, a league that shared some of the most iconic athletes on a global stage, dating back to 1946. Wilt, Russell, Oscar, Kareem, Irving, Bird, Magic, LeBron. Names that you constantly hear about in the GOAT discussion, especially when we are debating the GOATs of eras. There's one name that never stood out, and despite that, he is one of the greatest scorers that this league has ever had to offer. Let's go back in time and rewind the clock.
I fell in love with basketball the first time I made a basket. I learned the city game and I would play every day. I made it. I made it. Mom and Dad, I made it.
Let me introduce you to Bernard King, one of the most explosive scorers of his era. Bernard King had a fascinating career. He was never a flashy highlight-worthy player, just an efficient and an effective one. He knew how to score from all three levels at ease and get to his spots at ease. At 6'7" and being at the small forward position, who would later down the track be the guy who Carmelo Anthony would model his game around.
Bernard King, aka the King. He was my idol as far as a basketball player goes, somebody I looked up to. Being from Brooklyn, him being from Brooklyn, it just goes hand in hand. It was one thing about Bernard King game that just stood out. It was the way that he was able to move in a quick fashion, but always just stop on the drop of a dime and make it countable. And nobody never knew what he was going to do. He was very deceptive out there on the basketball court. He was like a silent assassin. You know, didn't really say too much, but got the job done.
And he's got it! Back-to-back 50-point games for Bernard King.
Bernard was labelled the King of New York, and while Melo, he wanted to be the King of New York. So the storyline of his career, it all makes sense about how he idolised Bernard. And you can see the similarities when you watch Carmelo Anthony play. The beginning of Bernard King's career would look somewhat like this. The New Jersey Nets made the 7th overall pick in the 1977 NBA draft, and as a rookie, he led the team in scoring and placed 10th in the NBA with 24.2 points per game, 9.5 rebounds and 1.5 steals, shooting 48% from the field. He earned a berth on the All-Rookie team, but lost out on the Rookie of the Year honors to Phoenix Suns' Walter Davis. The Nets would finish with a 24-58 record, but it was a successful rookie campaign for Bernard. Unfortunately, his sophomore season wasn't too pretty. King, although averaging 21.6 points per game, 8 rebounds and almost 4 assists, his off-the-court problems continued, something that he'd been having troubles with since he got to the NBA. King abused alcohol early, forcing himself to be out of the Nets organization as he got sent to the Utah Jazz, but that tenure was left in just 19 games played for the Utah Jazz. The redemption story of Bernard King's career would look like this, I guess. Before the 80-81 season, the Jazz traded King to the Golden State Warriors for Wayne Cooper and a second-round draft choice. King spent 2 seasons with the Warriors, and he averaged 20 points per game each season. The highlight of his tenure there, in the 1980-81 season, he averaged 22 points per game and shot almost 60% from the field as a small forward. And he was even named Comeback NBA Player of the Year, an award that they don't even do now. But at the time, I guess it makes sense. I mean, a lot of players were abusing alcohol, abusing cocaine, and careers were being ended in a split second. In the 1981-82 season, he established himself as a first-time All-Star, leading the team with 23.2 points per game, and he even made All-NBA second-team honors. He ranked 8th in the league in scoring, 7th in field goal percentage at 56.6%, so this was really just the beginning of Bernard King, the star, the Hall of Fame player that we know Bernard King to be today. After the 1981-82 campaign, King signed with the New York Knicks, the Warriors exercised their rights of their first refusal, matching the offer, then trading King to the Knicks for Michael Ray Richardson and a draft choice. Bernard was finally back home and about to take the NBA by storm, in which he did. Bernard King's playoff performance in 1984 was indeed remarkable and stands as one of the most impressive scoring displays in NBA postseason history. Despite dealing with dislocated fingers, King put up incredible numbers throughout the playoffs, especially in the first 2 rounds. In the first round against the Detroit Pistons, King averaged 42.6 points per game and 8 rebounds while shooting an outstanding 60% from the field. His performance was instrumental in the Knicks' victory, including a memorable 44-point outburst in Game 5 of that series. King's ability to score in clutch moments, such as his 12 points in the last 5 minutes of regulation in Game 5, made him a vital threat. As I was unable to watch Bernard King play during his time, hearing stories like this is absolutely insane, and you realize how talented Bernard King was, and he certainly, I think, could translate to the modern day NBA, and I'll explain that later and why I think that. Pistons team with Isaiah, Lambier, a young and upcoming squad that would soon to be the bad boy Pistons. Bernard destroyed them. As the New York Knicks would reach the Eastern Conference semi-finals, they lost to Boston in 7 games, a Boston team who won the championship led by Larry Bird. In the second round against the Boston Celtics, who were the eventual champions that year, Bernard would continue his scoring excellence by averaging 29 points per game off 55% shooting. Despite the Celtics' focus on him defensively, he managed to deliver crucial performances, including 43 points in Game 4 and then 44 points in Game 6, helping the Knicks tie up the series. This was indeed a monumental carry job, as King had limited offensive support. Larry Bird's praise of Bernard King in his book Drive, where he called King the best scoring machine he had ever seen, speaks volumes about King's exceptional scoring ability. The statement is particularly noteworthy considering Bird's own incredible scoring feats, and because he's experienced with other prolific scorers like Michael Jordan, George Gervin, Adrian Dantley, the list goes on. Larry faced some extremely good competition during his day, especially from the small forward position, so the fact that he puts Bernard King amongst them all, it speaks wonders about how good Bernard was. Bernard King, the greatest scorer in the game. In the 1984-85 season, King was the main attraction in Big Apple and even beyond. He led the entire NBA in scoring with 33 points per game and provided a memorable heat wave in the middle of winter.
Get over the hurdle, and now Bernard King looking for his 60th point. 60 for Bernard King, and the Jersey wins it.
On Christmas Day, he scored 60 points against his former team, the New Jersey Nets. This was a Knicks franchise record at the time, and on February 16th, he would drop 55 points again on the New Jersey Nets. These scoring numbers at the time, they were almost unparalleled. Just watching these highlights, he seemed very skilled inside the 3-point line. It doesn't matter who is guarding him, you just can't stop that level of being able to get a bucket at any given moment and being able to shoot over anyone, much like a Kawhi Leonard you could compare him to today on the offensive end, or a Carmelo Anthony. This kind of made me think, would Bernard King be able to score this easy in the modern day NBA and be as dominant as he was back then in today's league? I think his mid-range would honestly transition to today's game. I mean, Kawhi Leonard does it very efficiently, Devin Booker does it, Paul George does it, Jimmy Butler thrives at it. There's no reason why Bernard couldn't succeed from that mid-range earlier. If he's getting his shot over taller defenders then, and he's getting it off quick, it looks very hard to block, and he's just shooting over them. I don't think you can stop that. But it's not only that, he has a quick, sharp handle like a Kawhi Leonard where he can just get to his spot at ease. And it doesn't need to be flashy, he doesn't need to have all the moves in the arsenal. It's just he knows how to get to his spot and he knows how to pull up for a mid-range jump shot. You can't really teach that. He can drive and he can finish strong against elite interior defenders then, with a variety of different finishes including hooks, floaters, dunks, layups. I mean, obviously, You look at today's game, the finishes are very crazy, but at the end of the day, if you're placing Bernard King in today's NBA, I'm sure he would find a way to adapt and finish through contact. Defensive structures are changing, but at the end of the day, I think Bernard would adapt to today's time, and I still think he would thrive and be one of the best scorers that this league has to offer. Sadly, towards the end of the 84-85 season, Bernard would tear his ACL, which forced him to miss the entire 85-86 season. This injury prompted a slump at the conclusion of the 84-85 season, and they made the lottery of that draft in the most rigged instance in the NBA draft in league history, as the Knicks miraculously got Patrick Ewing, but that's for a separate video. The number 1 pick they used to draft Patrick Ewing. However, Bernard King would miss the entire of Patrick Ewing's rookie year, and the next season Bernard King would only play 6 games, and Ewing was injured during those 6 games, so they would never actually play together. In those 6 games though, Bernard King would come back to the league and he would still show off that he was one of the best scorers in the league, averaging 22.7 points per game, proving that he had successfully rehabilitated himself. Although the Knicks were no longer interested in him, and they renounced his rights at the end of the 86-87 season as he became a Washington Bullet. He averaged 17.2 points per game in his first comeback season and increased his scoring the following 3 years until the 1990-91 season, when he reached 28.4 points per game, third in the NBA behind Michael Jordan and Karl Malone, 2 of the greatest players in league history. Not bad for a 34-year-old, huh? However, the knee would bite once again, and Bernard King was forced to miss the entire 1991-1992 season. After building up his tenure at Washington like he did in New York, he would finally look like that superstar once again. As mentioned, he averaged 28.4 points per game, around 5 rebounds and 5 assists. As a 34-year-old, Bernard King, the finished product. And of course, the trend of his career, like always, the hard-working King made yet another comeback in the 1992-1993 season after missing the entire 1991-1992 season. Unfortunately, King only played in 32 games that year before announcing retirement from the league, and he looked like a complete shell of himself. 2 seasons prior, he'd averaged close to 30 a game. Now he found himself coming off the bench, only playing 13 minutes a night and only scoring 7 points per game. There were no more comebacks left up his sleeve after attempting to do so twice in his NBA career and successfully achieving them. And although he had never won a championship, and he also suffered his share of devastating injuries, which he came back from, but he just couldn't sustain longevity of playing at the peak level for consecutive years. Unfortunately, his knee, it buggered him twice, and he did come back and he did reach that player that he was. It just took Bernard some time to come back. Look, he still made the Hall of Fame in 2015, but for these reasons, he'll forever be the most underrated all-time great in NBA history. And with all things being said, this has been Marks from the Bench Mob. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. For now, we'll catch you guys next time.